As I was grading this Google Classroom assignment number 15, I noticed that many of you were struggling, probably because you didn't watch this video right there. But even if you had, there were still the possibility that you could have made some mistakes. Counting atoms is too important to what we need to do going forward for you not to get. So I'm going to walk through this worksheet so that you can see what you should have done or where you went wrong on some of the ones that you did. And then we're going to give you another shot at an assignment similar to this. Different compounds, but the ability to get this skill again. Because as I said, again, this skill is too important to what we need to go to do going forward. What you were supposed to do is identify the element and the total number of each one of them was there. What a number of you did was Google the name of the compound and just wrote that in. For example, a number of people Googled H2O or you knew it and just wrote water. That wasn't the point. We're supposed to identify the element and then how many we have of each of them. So if you have your periodic table and you look, you're looking for the capital letters. There are 2 capital letters in this formula, which means I have 2 elements. If I look it up, hydrogen is the H and oxygen is the O. How do I know how many there are? I start looking for subscripts. The H has a 2 on it, and so it goes to the hydrogen. The oxygen does not have a subscript, so we just have 1, and then we simply add all these numbers together to say that H2O is a compound with 3 atoms. If we look at number 2, we've got 2 capital letters, so there are 2 elements. The Ca is calcium. It does not have a subscript, so there's only 1 of them. And then the Cl is chlorine. It does have a subscript, and that is a 2. We've accounted for all of the elements. We add the numbers up, so there are 3 atoms in the compound CaCl2. For number 3, if we look, we have 3 capital letters. That tells us that there are 3 elements. If you look on your periodic table, Cu is copper, the S is sulfur, and the O is oxygen. The more you use these, the more you'll start to memorize them. Now, to count number of atoms, we can look for subscripts. Copper has no number attached to it, therefore it's a 1. The sulfur has no number or subscript attached, so it's a 1. The oxygen does have a number, it's a 4. So now we've accounted for the elements, the number of them, and we can simply add them together to get that 1 molecule of CuSO4 has 6 atoms. When you get to number 4, you've got something a little different because you've got this parentheses. But don't be fooled, it's really easy to deal with. What it's telling you is that there are 3 sets of what's inside the parentheses. Sometimes it's easier to take this and expand it. And if we did that, this is what it would mean. I have 1 NO3, 2 NO3, and there's 3 NO3s, right? So it's like we've combined like terms. Now it becomes really easy to count, right? So I've got PB, I've got an N and an O, 3 capital letters, 3 elements. PB is lead, N is nitrogen, and O is oxygen. And now we can count. The PB does not have a subscript attached to it because the subscript right here is attached to the parentheses, not the lead. So there's only 1 lead. The nitrogen is attached to that subscript, but we expanded it, so there's 1 there, and 1 there, so we have 3. And then if we count the oxygens, there's 3, plus 3 is 6, plus 3 more is 9. So 1 molecule of PbNO3 has 13 atoms. In number 5, you have an N, an H, an S, a C, and then another N. You could either list these 2 N's together, or you could have listed them separately. They're listed separately in the compound for reasons we will get into later in the course, but it has to do with how it bonds. But the N is nitrogen, and we have 2 of them. The H is hydrogen, and there's a 4 subscript, so we have 4. The S is sulfur. There is no subscript, so there's just one. And the C is carbon, and there's no subscript, so there's just one. We accounted for this guy when we counted the first nitrogen, so we've counted all of the atoms, and there are 8 when I add 2, 4, 1, and 1. And then last we have this one, another parentheses, but let's count our atoms or our elements first. Capital letters. There's an A, there's a C, there's an O. 3 elements. Al is aluminum, and it has a 2. C is carbon, O is oxygen. And let's try our trick here again by expanding that CO3. What it means is, there's the Al, the aluminum expanded, but it means is there's one CO3, here's a second CO3, and there's a third CO3. And now counting gets much easier. 1, 2, 3 carbons, 3, 6, 9 oxygens for a total of 14 atoms. I hope that this makes it a little more clear to you, and it's time for you to go try again. Look for assignment number 17 in Google Classroom.